All right, take us away, Rowan. Tomb Raider.
Thanks, Deb. Yeah, I'm the Tomb Raider by name. Deb, do you want to give just a brief snapshot again for all of us about the inner circle, middle circle, and outer circle? Because we're going to talk about outer circle type things today. And if you just want to give a few sentences around what they are as a bit of a reminder.
Well, I'd love to, but Danny's excellent at this. So he's more concise than I. So I'm just going to palm it to you, Danny, to give us those quick synopses.
Flick past. I caught it. Okay. All right. So the three circles are like three concentric circles, one inside the other. The inner circle represents us as individuals and our own walk with God, how it is that God interacts with us and our story. That's the individual inner circle. And then the second circle is the circle of fellowship, those that we do life with, that we walk with, that we walk closely with and look after. That's our second circle. And our third circle is our outer circle, or our expression of faith, how it is that we live out our faith and the friendships that we form in the world, in and around the place, with a view to be missional, and which basically means to share Jesus with people, but also to do good in the world. So that's our outward expression of faith.
Thanks, Danny. Well passed, Deb. So some of the questions I wanted to ask were just about everyone's experience in this space in terms of their expression and where they're at now. I wanted to ask about some regrets around this as well. Have there ever been a time, or has there ever been a time in the past that you've regretted not participating in something in your walk? So something that it may have been when you were a teenager, a young adult, or now. Sorry, I've cut everyone out of young adults. But something in your faith that has maybe, defined your actions now, the things you do now that you've regretted either not doing or wishing you had done in the past. And then I've got some other questions around that, but I just wanted to give you a heads up in terms of the direction of where this is going. And just as a takeaway, being encouraged by everyone's stories, we also want to get a bit of an idea about what responsibility looks like in our own walk of faith and some of the things we've done in Jesus' name, and in gratefulness that's sort of given us that point of view of what this is the path that I need to be on. It's a healthy perspective in our walk of faith. Some sense of responsibility, but what does that look like, and to encourage each other on that. And I think sort of discussing change. What does it look like if, in regards to all of these things, if we were to do new things or encourage people on new ideas, I guess, around that. So that's sort of the landscape.
Good one, Ro. Good questions. Yeah, layout.
So I guess just in terms of experience and ministry, we've all got different backgrounds, but I wonder if anyone could comment on the ministry that they do that's outside of the church environment. So I'll give you some context. I'll start to give you some time to think about some of these things and maybe prompt some questions as well. And I'll sort of open the book a little bit about me, so everyone's on the same page, if that's okay. I am 37. I have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old, and a wonderful family. And we've been at the same church forever, for as long as we've been Christian, since we've been saved. My wife, Belle, has been at St. Paul's, Castle Hill for all of her life. And I went in and out during high school. to the youth program, but gave my life to Jesus at the end of that transition time into young adulthood. Since then, I've been involved in ministries in lots of different ways, mainly music ministry. My first career was as a muso, and there was lots of wonderful opportunities to be involved in music ministry, and also in business ministry. I actually started a music school at the church using the church facilities as a way to do outreach and help with some music production in the early days as well. But since then, I've been running some small groups. But really, I feel that my development as a man of faith, as someone who's very curious and also feels called, is that my ministry is outside of church. It's in my work, the people that I meet, and in I guess doing life with my family and others as well. And as we know, over time there are ups and downs when you do life closely with people, and that means that there's an opportunity there to do ministry in really practical ways and meaningful ways in people's lives. So what that's looked like just depends on who you're walking with. And for me specifically, I've been involved in ministries outside of my church with my family and the kids' friends as well. And for my wife as well, she's been involved in particular ministries outside of church where she's been able to get alongside young adults, young kids as well, being involved in programs at school, outside of school, and I guess devote her time in a really meaningful way to making connections that do have a Christian worldview agenda. There is, let's build some relationships and put ourselves in positions where we can have conversations about Jesus, and do it in an authentic way. What that means is that we then haven't dedicated our time to ministries within church as much as we could have, but at different times we've felt called to do that. And I guess we can unpack that for everyone here if that's been your experience as well. And I think what that does is reflect an intention of a mission-led life, not one that's just within the context of church where most people are saved, maybe all people, God willing, but what does that look like in your experience?
That's a great question, Ro. I might start by answering one of those other 25 questions you said at the beginning, which was to lean in as well around the regrets. And I think something I do regret, which actually was something which sparked a change in, I guess, a change in how I sort of wanted to approach ministry, was, I think, a few years back at our church, which, we're heavily involved with. And I think I sort of just looked up one day because we're involved with multiple ministries. And I think the thing that brought it home was that we had we had a number of services which were, for seekers or for outreach. And we sort of just realized, we've got our kids, and we can't actually bring, their friends along because we're in meetings, and we couldn't even ask the parents along because we're in meetings. And, like before the event and after the event, and even during the week, like we weren't even able to, like it's almost felt awkward because we hadn't seen them much, and it was like, oh, hey, we've got an event coming up, right? So, and I think that just sort of brought that home, and it was like, oh wow, that's something didn't feel quite right about that, and I think it just really and I think it made me really look at all the different areas of service in the church, and I thought, oh, okay, these are all great, and and I actually, to varying degrees, loved each ministry in a different way. But it then just brought home, hey, look, I'm missing out on actually spending time with the people who really need to hear it, and I just realized, like I had been focusing more of my efforts within the church, which has been great. But just so it sort of started me on that journey of trying to work out what does that actually look like to reprioritize and sort of create more margin in my life. And I sort of just realized that in many ways I had started to compartmentalize my expression as a believer, and just sort of was saying, okay, well, my ministry and evangelism needs to happen in the church, which is what I realized I was subconsciously doing. And then I thought, oh, okay, now if I take a step back, what does that look like then if I sort of say, okay, I'm a believer, no matter where I go, and how do I sort of look at my life with a new lens and say, okay, well, let's reprioritize things, and let's see as I reprioritize things what that actually looks like in practice. And yes, I mean, I think one of the, now leading into your question here, I think that's sort of one area which came to mind out of that was actually coaching my son's soccer team. So he was playing soccer, and I think one year one of the old coach actually couldn't do it anymore, so no one else was really putting up their hand, and then it looked like the team might sort of just disband, or possibly I wasn't sure where I was going to go, and I thought, oh, I'll do it. Why don't I do it? And I thought, oh, why would I want to do it? And I was thinking about that, and I was thinking, oh, here's a great opportunity where there's all these kids who I'd gotten to know, because through the soccer team, that soccer team had actually become our community within the school, right? So they were all our school, our kids' friends, and we would see each other not just at soccer. We would have social events and like multiple things, and so we'd actually created quite a bit of a community. And so as I was thinking about it, I was like, oh, hey, this actually makes sense. Like, this is not going to really become another thing, because I'm already at the soccer game. We're already spending time together. I know all the kids. So, this is, and I enjoy soccer, and I also was unfit, so I need to get fit. So, hey, it ticks a lot of boxes. So yeah, anyway, and I think that as I sort of did that, there was just so many opportunities that came out of that.
Did you see like an immediate impact in either yourself or the community that you were intentionally giving time and effort to? If you're deciding to spend more time with them, did it impact your faith, or were there relationships there that were impacted immediately? Obviously, there's a long-term play with community, right? You're building trust with people, and at the right time, you can have really wonderful conversations. But was there something that sort of validated it for you straight away? Was there some quick feedback for you?
I think so. I think the thing that really struck me the most in that was, in being the coach, you're in a position of authority, and you've got the ability to create culture. And so I think the immediate impact I felt was, hey, look, we can actually be intentional to say, okay, even in how I run, the training days, or even just the culture of how we talk